right, there continues to be a manhunt throughout Europe for this guy, Anas Amri, who is the terror suspect in the horrible Christmas markets terrorist attack there in Germany, in Berlin, where he drove this truck reportedly into a crowd of people, killing 12, injuring dozens more. And this guy was on the radar screen, it appears, as a potential terrorist and somehow slipped through the cracks. Lieutenant Colonel Bob McGinnis, Senior Fellow for National Security at Family Research Council, and he's author of a lot of great books like Deadly Consequences, Never Submit. His newest book is Future War. He's been there at the Christmas markets in Germany and was there actually just recently before this attack. He joins me now. Colonel McGinnis, always a pleasure. Thanks for being with us today.
Well, thanks for having me, Bob.
Thank you, sir. Before we get to some of the latest with this potential terrorist, I mean, you've been there, and one of your observations as a national security expert and a terrorism expert is that, my goodness, a place like this is just prime for this type of terrorist attack that ISIS, by the way, has specifically said this is the kind of terrorist attack to carry out.
And in fact, we need to be concerned in this country, and I think security has been heightened as a direct result of what happened to Berlin earlier this week. A couple of weeks ago, I was in Germany. I was visiting Christmas marts a couple of times. Incredible activity, thousands of them, in fact, across Germany, small and large, like the one there in Berlin. And as you walk around, Bob, you notice that people are literally shoulder to shoulder. It's dark, it's cold, it's Germany, it's an exciting time, but also a very vulnerable time if you want to use a weapon to kill and maim a lot of people. And in fact, they've had plenty of warnings that this might happen, but I didn't, at the ones that I went to, see a lot of police presence. And of course, last night, a friend of mine that's in Germany sent me pictures of some of his local Christmas marts, and now we begin to see a lot of military and police presence. So they've got the message, but it's much too late.
You know, not to try to throw Merkel under the bus, but sometimes you wonder if not just in Germany, but so many other places in Europe, if they're just not taking this seriously, the flood of the Syrian refugees that they're just happy to take in, the spread of Islamization of the region in the EU, it just continues more and more. And I don't know. I just don't know how they cannot have on their radar screen, for the sake of political correctness, the very real dangers and threats that continue to build.
Well, one newspaper carried it as Merkel's dead, and that's unfortunate, but it's the reality. People are truly fearful of what might be happening, given that they've accepted, by some estimates, up to 1.3 million unvetted immigrants from North Africa and the Middle East. And what is disturbing about this, Bob, is that the vast majority, I'm talking about probably 75%, have been young military-age men that have come in not with families, but alone, seeking their fortune, using the social welfare system, living off the government, getting pensions in many cases, help, and they've perpetrated, as you look at the crime records in some of these areas, they've perpetrated 80-90% of local crime, petty theft, sexual assault, and in some cases, violent murders. And so, the Germans know this. That's why you've seen the rise of the Alternative for Germany, a political party mostly of nationalists who are saying enough's enough. We're not going to tolerate this. Before this incident in Berlin, they were tracking about 13% of the sentiment in Germany. I suspect that number is going to go up. And, of course, Merkel is going to have a very, very hard uphill battle as she goes for election there in their parliament in the coming year.
She's going to. So what do we do then locally, Colonel? We have just about a minute left, but Christmas, of course, this weekend. We do want to be alert. We want to pay attention to what's going on. We would be naive to think that there aren't Islamic jihadists in this country that are ISIS sympathizers. Most Muslims are just wanting to enjoy the weekend in this country, but we know that we've got these radicals in this country, and we know that some of them are at least contemplating, do I do something like this weekend or not? So what kind of stuff do we look for in being alert this weekend.
Well, even the FBI Director Comey made it very clear a year ago that we have hundreds of recruiters for these radicals in our own country. So, yes, if we see something, we have to report it. And we have to be aware that people are going to target us given the opportunity. We need to have, where we gather people for celebrations, we need to make sure that we've taken due diligence and we've protected ourselves. I'm a big believer in the Second Amendment. Sometimes you have to legally protect yourself and be prepared for that. Given my son-in-law is a police officer, he's told me about here in the Washington metro area people that they've arrested that are radicalized. We know that the FBI is checking out some of the more radical facilities that inspire some of this hatred. This is something that I address and Never Submit, my book of last year, that talks about not only the Christian genocide, but about the precautions that we must take in our local schools, our prisons, our communities, and educate ourselves, which is probably the primary thing. We can no longer afford to be naive about this emerging threat. It may only be 1%. About 1% of 1.6 billion is a lot of people.
And I'll tell you what, I could not agree with you more about the concealed carry and things like that. I mean, honestly, when I'm in a place that is a gun-free zone and they advertise that they're a gun-free zone, I feel just a little bit uneasy because I'm thinking if a terrorist or a mass murderer does go in there, they're not going to obey the sign on the door.
No.
They're going to be the only person in there with a gun. Quite frankly, if I'm out shopping somewhere this weekend in a mall and some kind of bad thing like that happens, I hope and pray that there is one or two or a few people that are licensed and trained and carrying. So, folks, it is, of course, Family Research Council and their senior fellow for national security at Family Research Council, Lieutenant Colonel Bob Maginnis, retired. Look for his newest book, of course, Future War. And, Colonel, it is always a pleasure. We always appreciate your time, and I hope you have a very Merry Christmas, sir.
Well, Merry Christmas to you as well, Bob.
Thank you. Take care. You're listening to The Bob Dutko Show.